Good morning once again, my friends. God bless you for attending another Living Hope Today study. Today we find ourselves in 2 Samuel chapter 17. For David's life, King David, things are going from bad to worse. He has committed the sin with Bathsheba, killed her husband Uriah. God has said, I forgive you, but there's going to be trouble in your household from now on. We've watched one of his sons rape his daughter. We've watched another of his sons kill the rapist. And now Absalom is leading a rebellion. He's trying to commit a coup. He's won the hearts of the people over years of time, and now he's marched into Jerusalem, and David has fled. What's God going to do about all this? Well, one of the interesting things I want you to see today is not just the details of the story, that's great, but understand that God is still moving to accomplish his purpose, even though these people that are not necessarily following God are making decisions that they think are their own. They think they're in charge and they're making decisions, but underneath it, God is moving and God is leading and guiding the whole thing. Watch this, 2 Samuel 17:1. Ahithophel, remember he's the guy that defected to Absalom. He said to Absalom, I would choose 12,000 men and set out tonight in pursuit of David. So what do we see here? Ahithophel, which is a man that's been gifted by God to give godly wisdom. He's telling Absalom, this is what you need to do. All right, David's already prayed that Ahithophel's advice would be bad. But it turns out Ahithophel's advice is great. I would choose 12,000 men and set out tonight in pursuit of David. I would attack him while he was weary and weak. I would strike him with terror, and then all the people with him will flee. I would strike down only the king and bring all the people back to you. The death of the man you seek, who's that? Well, I think that's David. The death of the man you seek will mean the return of all. All the people will be unharmed. Wow, so Ahithophel's taking this all the way to the fact to let's eliminate David, your dad. Oh, by the way, this plan seemed good to Absalom and to all the elders of Israel. Hey, yeah, let's do that. But Absalom said, summon also Hushai the Archite so we can hear what he has to say. Now you remember that Hushai is a plant. David has brought him over to Absalom's side. Hushai's been able to convince Absalom that he's really on Absalom's team. But truth be told, he's a spy for David. He has enough authority, though, that Absalom wants to hear from him as well as they plan this coup and this victory, right? They're going to overthrow the king. Well, when Hushai came to him, Absalom said, Ahithophel has given this advice. Should we do what he says? If not, give us your opinion. Watch this. Hushai replied to Absalom, the advice Ahithophel has given is not good at this time. All right, don't listen to that guy. Verse 8, you know your father and his men. They are fighters, and as fierce as a wild bear robbed of her cubs. Besides, your father is an experienced fighter. He will not spend the night with the troops. If you just go marching in there, you think he's weak. He's not weak. He's not with those troops. Even now, he is hidden in a cave or some other place. If he should attack your troops first, whoever hears about it will say there has been a slaughter among the troops who follow Absalom. In other words, if David decides to take it to you, Absalom, you're going to lose. Wow. Verse 10, even the bravest soldier whose heart is like the heart of a lion will melt with fear, for all Israel knows that your father is a fighter and that those with him are brave. So, you don't want to just rush into a confrontation. That's basically Hushai's advice. So I advise you, let all Israel from Dan to Beersheba. Remember, when it says Dan to Beersheba, it's talking from north to south. In other words, the whole country. As numerous as the sand on the seashore, be gathered to you. with you yourself leading them into battle. So instead of 12,000 guys go hit him quick as Ahithophel wants to do, Hushai is saying, look, get everybody together. Let's make this a full-on, everybody involved. You lead him into battle. Then we will attack him wherever he may be found, and we will fall on him as dew settles on the ground. Neither he nor any of his men will be left alive. Well, that's got to sound pretty good to Absalom, too. Unfortunately, he's trying to kill his dad. That's always bad, I think. If he withdraws into the city, then all Israel will bring ropes to that city, and we will drag it down to the valley until not even a piece of it can be found. Wow. So Absalom and all the men of Israel said, you know, the advice of Hushai the Archite is better than that of Ahithophel. And here's the line that defines this whole chapter. For the Lord had determined to frustrate the good advice of Ahithophel in order to bring disaster on Absalom. So David's prayed for Ahithophel to give bad advice, but Ahithophel has given good advice. But even with the good advice, God has put the circumstances together so that the good advice is going to be ignored. Underneath the whole scenario, unseen, unacknowledged, the Lord is still moving circumstances to accomplish his purpose. How does that apply to our lives? Well, just think about the fact that God is actively involved in every believer's life, and things are happening behind the scenes in without any recognition, that are actually moving our lives to where God wants us to be, to accomplish what God wants us to do. As long as we stay abiding in the vine and walk with him, the principle is right here. It's in David's life. God has decided he's going to bring disaster on Absalom. Absalom is not going to be the next king. Why? Because God wants David to be the king. That's why, simple as that. Well, Hushai told Zadok and Abiathar, the priests, Ahithophel has advised Absalom and the elders of Israel to do such and such, but I have advised them to do so and so, and now send a message immediately and tell David. Okay, so you can't have good spies and good reconnaissance if the message never gets back, right? So now Hushai is going to make sure that the message of what's being planned gets back to David. Do not spend the night at the fords in the desert, cross over without fail, or the king and all the people with him will be swallowed up. Hushai is basically saying, look, you know, Absalom does have the power to pull this off. He could wipe out David. He could. So you guys need to get over there and tell him what's going on as fast as you can before any of this really comes to a battle. Well, Jonathan and Ahimaaz were staying at Enrogel. A servant girl was to go and inform them, and they were to go and tell King David, for they could not risk being seen entering the city. All right, so we've got to still do some good spy work here to make sure that there's no trace of the message going to David, or else it might change Absalom's plan. But in verse 18, a young man saw them, and he told Absalom. So now Absalom has the information. So two of them left quickly and went to the house of a man in Bahurim. He had a well in his courtyard, and they climbed down into it. So imagine this. There's two guys with the message that has to get to David. They know they're being hunted by Absalom's troops. They get to this place where there's a well. What should we do? Let's get in the well. And what happens? His wife. Here's an unnamed lady that knows what to do. His wife took a covering and spread it out over the opening of the well and scattered grain over it. No one knew anything about it. What's that about? Well, you can't see the well. There's a bunch of grain over there in a pile. So where are the guys? Well, when Absalom's men came to the woman at the house, they asked, where are Ahimaaz and Jonathan? And the woman answered them, they crossed over the brook. Deception. That's good spy work, right? The men searched but found no one, so they returned to Jerusalem. Hey, we couldn't find them. So we're assuming they got away or something stopped their plan. After the men had gone, the two climbed out of the well and went to inform King David. So the spies are going to reach the king. They said to him, "Set out and cross the river at once. Ahithophel has advised such and such against you." So David and all the people with him set out and crossed the Jordan, and by daybreak no one was left who had not crossed the Jordan. We'll look at a map in a minute. When Ahithophel saw that his advice had not been followed, this is a sad verse. Ahithophel understands that Absalom is not going in the right direction. He understands that his betrayal of David is putting him in a terrible position in terms of his own survival should David retain power. So what does he do? Well, when he saw that his advice had not been followed, he saddled his donkey and set out for his house in his hometown. He put his house in order. And then what did he do? He commits suicide. He hanged himself. No alternative. Absalom's going to lose. David's going to win. I've betrayed David. I'm going to get killed anyway. So he died and was buried in his father's tomb. David went to Mahanaim, and Absalom crossed the Jordan with all the men of Israel. What does that look like? Well, here's a little map for us. I know it's kind of small, but bottom left, Hebron and Gilo, a little higher than that, like equal with the top of the Dead Sea there is Jerusalem and the Mount of Olives. David's been running north. You get up to the top there. Where are you? You're looking at Gilead and Mahanaim. Absalom is crossing the Jordan as well. That's the river that's running up to the north of the Dead Sea there on the way to the Sea of Galilee. So this whole scenario is tracking way up north of Jerusalem as David is on the run. All right? Now Absalom is chasing him. Ahithophel is out of the picture. Absalom had appointed Amasa over the army in place of Joab. So notice that Absalom has control of the army that Joab used to work. I mean, Absalom has power. Amasa was the son of a man named Jether, an Israelite who had married Abigail, the daughter of Nahash and sister of Zeruiah, I can't ever say it, and the mother of Joab. The Israelites and Absalom camped in the land of Gilead. So we're about to have a fight. When David came to Mahanaim, Shobi, son of Nahash from Rabbah of the Ammonites, and Machir, son of Amiel from Lodebar, and Barzillai, the Gileadite from Rogelim, brought bedding and bowls and articles of pottery. They also brought wheat and barley, flour and roasted grains, beans and lentils, honey and curds, sheep and cheese from cow's milk for David and his people to eat. For they said, "The people have become hungry and tired and thirsty in the desert." Now that's the end of the chapter, but I want you to see that God is working behind the scenes to get his circumstances set up the way he wants them. And look at this. People are supplying David where otherwise he'd have nothing. But God is providing for him through the mercy of others in his life. What's happening here, church? God is working through people, even the evil people, to get his purposes accomplished. It's the same God we serve today. We just have to understand whether you're talking about world or local politics, who's leading who, where, or even little intimate circumstances in your own life where, why is this happening? Why is that happening? God, what are you doing? We just have to trust and know that God is always working to accomplish his purpose through our lives. We can trust him. You'll see what happens next time we gather. God bless you, church. Serve him well today.
Who is it who for sinners shed his blood, and now for cleansing all can plunge beneath that flood? It's Jesus, future, the past, He is God.